Hello, Lisa here. Welcome to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time stopping by. Today we are continuing with my 2025 collection series. If you want to follow the entire evolution of my tarot and oracle deck collection, I have a playlist called Deck Collection Evolution. You can follow that to look at my older collection videos, what I've had to say about some of these same decks in prior videos, because as the title implies, my deck collection is always evolving. Things come in, things go out. It's the nature of things. But this is my 2025 update, and I'm going to be sharing today all of the decks that I've put in my compelling decks category. This is a really interesting category because there's a lot of decks here that are really unique, really long time favorites, or just real standouts. Something about them is very special in some way. And so this is a really cool category to talk about, and I cannot wait to get into it. Before I do that though, just a heads up if you're new here, my name is Lisa. Hello. I like to make YouTube content, obviously, about all things tarot and oracle decks, but I am also a tarot deck creator and an author. I will have a link or a visual, what do you call it, a graphic. I'll put a graphic up on the screen showing my work that is available now and where you can get it. But at the time I'm recording this, I'm also preparing to launch a new Kickstarter campaign for my very next project, which is the Unicorn's Journey Oracle, the successor to my initial deck, my very first tarot deck, Unicorn's Journey Tarot. The Unicorn's Journey Oracle will be launching on Kickstarter sometime in the next several weeks. If you are interested, please do head over to the Kickstarter page and click notify me on launch. I will be having a live launch party here on the channel, so stay tuned, keep an eye out for that. We will be launching on a Saturday, Pacific time, probably. So stay tuned. I will keep you guys posted. But in the meantime, that notify me on launch gives me very valuable information about how many of you are actually interested in the deck, which helps me plan and prepare for that launch. So I really appreciate your help in clicking that button if you are interested in that. And I also have a bunch of information already over there. I've got pictures of all the cards. I have updates on the card stock, a note about tariffs, like all the things you probably want to know before launch. It's all pretty much right there. So go ahead and head on over there and take a look at it if you're interested. Now, with that said, let's get into my compelling decks. By the way, if you missed the first video in this series, I am doing some sort of semi-decluttering through this. Mostly I'm just looking for things that I'm not sure have a place in my practice anymore. And those are going to go into like a bit of a pile or basket or container or something while I do these videos. And I will revisit them at the end of the series, all the things that I kind of put on the chopping block to think about how I feel about them and whether or not they need to go into purgatory, go into storage for just collectible reasons, or move along, that sort of thing. So I will revisit that at the end of the series, but for now, we're going to get into it. Okay, so this category, when I thought of decks that were compelling, these were decks that I could not really rightfully place in another category, but which have a grip on me in some way. And so I want to talk through some of these. Now, a couple of these, I'm not sure what their longevity is going to be in my collection, but most of these are real rock solid. This first one is one that is compelling that I'm not sure about its long-term position, and this is the Journey Tarot. This is a really cool deck. This is by Tegan Michael Turner. I don't know why, but I can never figure out how to open this box. Oh, there it is. Okay. Like, it doesn't open the way that I think it's going to open. So just the way the box is designed, it's like this away, which is just, it trips me out. This is a really cool deck, and I have a walkthrough showing me kind of experiencing this deck for the first time and sort of realizing what it's all about. It's got a very dreamlike quality. And by that, I mean, it's got a surreal almost quality to it where you feel like you're in a dream when you look at it. And that's one of the things that makes it incredibly compelling. It's also got a really weird cardstock. Like, this backside feels like it's got like a soft touch lamination. The front side is like semi-gloss, and there seems to be like a linen texture. Like, I could not classify this cardstock to save my life. It's very weird. But there's a dreamlike quality to this deck. It also has an esoteric quality. I almost put this in my esoteric decks actually, because it is the only deck I know of that very intentionally groups the major arcana in themes according to the septenaries. Now, if you don't know what that is, the major arcana, because it is made up of 21 cards, can be split up into 3 groups of 7, not counting the Fool. And what that does is it allows you to look at relationships between, say, the first card of the first septenary, which would be the Magician, and the first card of the second septenary, which would be the Strength card, and so on and so forth. And you can look at these like families of cards and start to see correlations. Well, this deck gets into that in a very intentional way. And when I first unboxed this, I just thought that was the coolest freaking thing ever. I've noticed though that as much as I love this deck and think it is just absolutely so cool, one thing that I struggle with is there's something about the artwork that is it's detailed and it's a little bit fine for my eyes. I don't know how to describe that. Like here's like the Knight of Water, and this is like, it almost looks like Mother Earth and Mother Wind dancing together or something. And there's like a little Inukshuk there in the front. I mean, there's so much happening. There's so many layers to this artwork, and it feels like a fever dream in a way. It's a very intuitive deck to work with, but I feel like this one is one that's possibly going to go on the chopping block because it is incredible. Don't get me wrong. This deck is really, really cool, but I find myself needing to be in a very specific headspace to want to reach for it. And it's so freaking cool. This deck is so cool. This 5 of Fire, where one person's standing on the other person's shoulders and that person standing on that person's shoulders, it's giving me like lobsters getting out of the pot vibe. You know, there's just some really interesting takes to these cards. It really like makes you think differently, I think, about these images. This bugs me because like an upside down, it looks to me like, I think it is intentionally an upside down treehouse. It's like a whole thing. I had so much fun sinking into this artwork and going through it all. And I feel like it taught me something in that process, even just in how I looked at the septenaries. But I'm starting to feel like this was like a explorative, experiential sort of deck for me and not necessarily an ongoing reading deck. Even though I 1000% think it is the coolest thing, it's just something I find myself not thinking of or reaching for. So I think I'm going to put this on the chopping block, but oh my gosh, it is so cool. It is so cool. And you can just see me have like the best experience in the walkthrough. And it's one of those things where, and I've talked about this before, one of the luxuries I have as somebody who reviews tarot decks is I'm able to have experiences with decks. I'm able to bring something in and really dive into it and look at it and get to know it and then sit with it for a bit and have the experience of having learned from that. And that doesn't mean that I need to necessarily keep it. So we'll see. We'll see where this ends up landing. But I think for now it's going to go in my chopping block pile and we'll see where it ends up later on. This is another one that I'm actually considering putting on the chopping block, even though I've had this for years and I like constantly sing its praises. The time in my life where I was really drawn to work with this has passed. Like I'm no longer as drawn to work with this deck. Anyways, this is the Luminous Void Tarot. This does something to my brain. I don't know why it happens or how it happens, but every time I try to talk about this deck, I forget what it's called. Every single time. And I've had this for long enough that like there's literally no reason. I have a memory like a steel trap for deck names most of the time, but this one just won't stick. It's like slippery in some way. When I first saw the artwork for this, I really didn't like it, if I'm being honest. I didn't like the smushy people, but then I got it in my hands, and at the time that I got this in, I actually had it in a larger version, and then I actually ended up later on getting this smaller like shuffle edition. Part of it was the shape. I was really entranced by the shape when I first got it. But when I did start working with this deck, what was happening was I was doing a particular type of reading for clients, and I had one particular client at the time who really wanted just phone readings, and we would end up in these really lengthy like phone readings, and they were some of the most incredible reading experiences I had with this particular client. And I almost always grabbed this deck. There was something about this that when I was reading in that way, it just let me get into the flow of my intuition and just really sink into it. But that is the last time I used it with any regularity. And ever since then, it's been more like something that like I've had and thought was cool that I have, but that I have felt no desire to actually work with. It doesn't occur to me to think of this deck even for most tarot tags or other kinds of prompts. It's like it just kind of slips away from my mind. And I think that's evidenced even in the way that I seem to keep forgetting the name of it. But I do think this is really beautiful. I do think it's really unique and cool, but there's also aspects of this art that I think are kind of creepy and like eerie to look at. And it's actually sometimes makes me really uncomfortable. But like when I'm reading in a really intuitive flow state, sometimes that's a good thing. But in this case, the more that I look at it, especially now sitting here with like an open mind to where my practice is right this minute, the more that I look at it, I'm like, actually, this is not for me anymore. Yeah, this is not for me anymore. So I think this one's going to go on the chopping block. I'm pretty sure this one will end up ultimately leaving. We'll see if I rescue it at the last minute. But I think this is one that, as compelling and interesting and just out of the box as this is, I just don't think it's in my practice anymore. So that is the Luminous Void Tarot by Laura Zespin. Now, again, just to remind you, any decks that go on the chopping block, any decks that I decide to declutter, I never do that quickly. I always put them in a purgatory. I let them sit for sometimes quite a long time, usually at least 6 months, sometimes 1 or 2 years before I ultimately let them go. So I won't be like passing things on anytime soon, just so you know. Okay, next up, these should be relatively safe in my collection. I know that we're coming up on some that are rock solid, I promise. These are the Chicoli Tarot and Oracle. These are really special to me. They feel really intuitive, but not in a way that like weirds me out as with the Luminous Void. These have a creep factor for sure. There's like a creepy doll vibe to this art, but there's something about this artist's work that I find intensely compelling and healing. There is something about these like sweet characters with these like sort of dark shadowy elements happening, these kind of like eerie things happening. There's like a fun house vibe in that like spooky way to this deck. I love this artist's work. Like I want her art books so bad. There's 1 or 2 of them I've seen, but I haven't been able to actually get my hands on any. I think they go out of print or something. I can't figure it out, but there is this one art piece she had. There's so many of these I would just love to just have and be able to flip through. This is an artist whose work I would like collect. There's something about it that just, it to me speaks to childhood. I feel like I'm childhood trauma. It speaks to shadows. It speaks to being taken advantage of. It speaks to the darkness that lurks beneath the pretty picture and the smiling face and like what's happening. But there's a real empowering vibe to this. There's a real taking back power vibe to this. I love the kings in this deck. The way that they're always like, there's something ferocious happening in all of them. Those both kind of had like a bit of a vibe. So I was looking at them, but I have no reason or no difficulty reading with this deck. It feels like it's the perfect thing to pull out in certain life situations where if you're dealing with like toxic people, if you're dealing with past stuff, if you're dealing with your own baggage. For me, this is just a really powerful one to work with, and oh, it's so good. Anyways, the Nicoletta Chicoli. I had heard a rumor a while back that this was going out of print, but I think they're just revamping it somehow. I don't know. It came up in a recent live stream, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But I have it in a matching bag with the Oracle deck. Now, the Oracle deck I modified, and that is because it had no keywords or titles or anything, and it's an Oracle deck. And so I created a system for it. So between reading the guidebook and really sitting with each card and whatnot, I tried to come up with like a slightly more positive sounding and a slightly more shadowy sounding keyword for each card. So in this image, between meditating on the image and reading the guidebook, I came out with unexpected, but also assumptions. So this character's coming in with all these tentacles, and like, this is obviously an unexpected development. That's the sort of neutral or positive interpretation of this image. But there's also the fact that like when something comes unexpected in, this character could be making assumptions about what that is, what the intent is, etc. So I do a lot of that. Opinions and distractions. Improvisation or imperfection. This one is plant new seeds and bloom where you are planted. And I used a pink metallic Sharpie. It's really hard to see on some of the cards on camera. Here we have faith versus despair. And so some of these, like I said, came from the guidebook entries. Some of these came from me really thinking about how the image was speaking to me. And like, I don't know, again, I'm obsessed with this art. I think there's something really sweet and insidious about it that just, it's again, very compelling, very compelling. If we're thinking about that term, like, man, this deck really meets that term. The guidebook entries in here are actually really good. It's just that I end up working with this deck more intuitively most of the time, but the guidebook is actually written by, where did it go? Come here. I know you're in here. Linnea Weatherstone. Linnea Weatherstone. So really well done little guidebook. And I really like this deck. But for me, it's those handwritten keywords that made it come alive. And decks like this can be really difficult to get to know because they don't have keywords and like right on the cards. So you got to figure out how you're going to work with the deck in like an actual literal sense. But anyways, these two are obviously paired and live as a pairing. But these are my, oh, I love these. I love these a lot. Okay, next up in compelling, I did not do a collage deck category because I realized I just don't have very many decks in this that are collage art, but this is such a good one. I put compelling because ever since I got this in, I have wanted to play with it. I just don't want to put it away. And that for me is a pretty good sign of a compelling deck. I mean, the decks are, this deck is difficult to shuffle. She is chunky. But there is something about the quality of this that is, it's like my dream collage. Like the way that it's done is just absolute. I'm trying to, again, avoid nudity. There's not a lot in this deck. There's a little bit of statues that have issues. It's open. It's focused. It feels, it's a kind of collage where I don't have difficulty figuring out what's happening here. Like this feels like the Fool to me. I don't have to work at it. The Hanged Man. This deck, this cracked me up because I thought it was cows. It's not cows. It's horses. Some of them are like cave drawing horses, which actually is really cool. But this just feels, this is the kind of intuitive deck that feels really good to me. It feels like I can just dive into it. And I think that's the thing is now when I think of decks that are intuitive, they're decks that give me a lot to sort of look at or think about. I love this Lover's card. I think it's really, really cool. When I think of like the Luminous Void Tarot, that deck feels like it's sort of like making me be intuitive, whereas this deck invites me to be intuitive. And that's a very different thing. There's like little things I can hone in on or that can jump out at me about the artwork. Like here's the Empress and I see she's got like fruit and maybe even like, no, just fruit next to her here. She's got a little fox cuddling up to her here. There's a horse. There's a goddess statue. I really enjoy this deck. I really, really genuinely do. And I've tried to get along with other, like this is such a heartbreaking 5 of coins, right? I've tried to get along with other collage decks, but they've got so much going on. There's something about this style that just really, really works for me. So I love this. This is definitely compelling. It's really fun for me to read with. And the guidebook entries are also really great. So like here we have the King of Wands. So if I go to the King of Wands in the deck, it will not leave me hung out to dry. It will tell me something, right? So here it says, now is the time to use your skills as leader. Your magnetism, confidence, and charm attract like-minded people. You've earned their respect, and they look to you for guidance. So we see this lion and this character here, right? Lead by doing, and your team will happily follow. You have the confidence and skill to manage any opportunity, so forth and so on. You get the idea. Like it feels, it's just easy to work with. It's fun. It reads really well. I mean, like, I've used this in member readings. It's great. It's great. Love Scarab and Dahlia. So that's a really great one. And that's a really fun indie collage deck. I haven't picked out the perfect bag for this yet, but I will probably try to pick out a fabric so I can hang this one up. It's so good. It's so good. Okay, next up in my compelling decks, and man, this one is very, very compelling. And this is the Shimmering Veil Tarot by Scylla Conway. I love this deck. Oh my gosh. This is a favorite for me to read with. It's also really unique in that it doesn't have any titles or banners or words on it. You have, in order to know what card you're looking at, a little symbol. So for the majors, it's this little like infinity symbol and then a Roman numeral. But when you get into the suits, you have, so the little circle is going to be coins or pentacles, and you have letters. So for quartz, so this is W, that's warrior. So it's like the knight. We have water, 3 of water. This is the Ace of Coins or Ace of Pentacles. This is the 10 of Coins or 10 of Pentacles, the Queen, etc. So you get the idea. There we have the King of Water, 2 of Air. This is a really cool deck. I love this. This is a lot of fun to read with. It feels intuitive. It feels really interesting. It, again, is one that I enjoy sinking into and thinking about, and getting a little bit lost in. Look at these fiery cards, and then look at this strength. I love the painterly quality of it. I really do enjoy Scylla's work in general. So really, really love the Shimmering Veil Tarot. Another Scylla Conway deck that I put in the compelling category is the Devas of Creation Oracle. I had such a turning point with this deck this year. This was in my purgatory pile because I just didn't know what to do with it. This and the multidimensional Devas. Now the multidimensional Devas I think remained in purgatory, but the original Devas of Creation, or Devas, I don't know how you're supposed to say that. Devas, Dewas, if anybody knows for sure, correct me down below, but I probably will forget again, just so you know. Same compelling art style as the Shimmering Veil Tarot, but my issue with this is that I was really hung up on the guidebook, and I was doing a video with Danny Mystic. We were doing a live stream together. It was a tarot tag, I think. And I said I was really hung up on this. It was when I was considering rehoming, and she said, are you using the guidebook? Or somebody in the chat did. I can't remember how it all played out. I'm sorry, y'all. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, you need to not. And as soon as I stopped using the guidebook and just started dipping into this intuitively, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Instead of I started reading with it like the soul cards, and it was so special and so compelling. We'll get to the soul cards because they're in this category, but suddenly it unlocked this deck for me, and I could just work with it. I could just work with it. I've used it in client readings. I have, well, member readings, I guess you could say. I love it. But when I was trying to work with it with the guidebook, it just wasn't clicking. It felt too locked in, I think. But working with it intuitively, it's really quite amazing. And this with the Shimmering Veil Tarot, I mean, I'll just show you really quick because, like, why not? We're here, we're hanging out. When you see these two together, they just make so much sense together. Same artist, which obviously goes a long way towards that sort of harmony in the decks, but still, look at this. It's just something special happens with these. And I really should actually hang them together as a pairing, because I think they really do speak to and with one another really naturally and really beautifully. I love the vibe of these. Like the movement in the art. Oh yes, I love these together. I need to, I think, just put these in a family. I don't know how much I will reach for the Devas away from this deck or not, but I think they need to sort of live together, and that will probably help me to think about using them together more. But I think these are both, I mean, Shimmering Veil is definitely safe. Devas is one that I may revisit again in the future, but working with it intuitively has been such a dream. So I think for now, if I hang them together, like on my wall, and work with them as a pair, I think I will find more cohesion in them. Okay, the next one is also a pairing in the compelling decks category, and that is the Tarot of Echoes and the Oracle of Echoes. These do feel very different from one another, and yet, because they're by the same artist, there is a cohesion to them. So these decks are by Anna Turian, whose artwork I genuinely really, really love and appreciate. And I have other decks by Anna I have her Lenormand deck, which is just beautiful. I think that one went out of print because I think it was just getting counterfeited all to hell, to be honest, which is a darn shame. But anyway, I really like these together, but I also really like them separately. I do have them hung as like a perma pair because, of course, between the colors and everything else going on, I think they work really well together. But I do wish we had a tarot in this style, a little bit more loosey-goosey, a little bit less detailed. As much as I love this artwork, and I do, I want this, but in a tarot. But here's the thing, art evolves, artists evolve, and that's okay. Like, look at this Emperor and Inner Strength card together. This feels a bit like As Above, So Below, or a little bit like look at this mirroring that's happening here. Really, really, really incredible. The Sun in balance. The Ten of Pentacles in transformation. They feel super different, but this Oracle of Echoes is easily one of my top 10 of all time oracles. Yeah, these are a lot of fun to play with together. Wow. There's some really cool things happening here. For sure. Oh, okay, I could do this all day. But I love these. They do sort of stay paired now in my collection, but love them. And Oracle of Echoes is really an all-rounder. Like, when it comes to Oracle decks, I think it really does work really well. But ever since I got Tarot of Echoes, I've just kind of really thought of them as like a pairing. Now, Tarot of Echoes, this is the indie edition. The mass market edition is going to be coming out, but unfortunately, I don't know exactly when. But keep your eyes peeled. I'm sure it will be in the next year or so. I say I'm sure, like I know. I don't actually know. I'm just guessing. But anyways, these decks are both very safe in my collection, especially for the time being. Okay, we have another pair. I feel like there's a lot of like little families in this section, but I guess that makes sense because these are my most used decks. This is new to me though. This is the Oracle of Oneness, and this of course is the Tarot of Oneness. The Tarot of Oneness is one of my top decks of all time. I absolutely adore it. It is a beautiful deck, and it brings you into the deck in the first person, which is so awesome and cool. So this is compelling. It is like, I could easily slip this into like, I don't know, modern or something, but it's its own thing. It puts you in the driver's seat of the experience of the cards. It makes path working absolutely effortless. Which path working is the practice of sort of going into the card and experiencing it as if you're in it and interacting with it. It's people-less, kind of like you are the person, so it doesn't feel empty in the way that a lot of decks that have an absence of people can feel a little bit empty and lonely. This doesn't have that feeling because I feel like I'm in it. It feels like that's me. These are my legs. You know, I'm the one juggling here. I'm facing off with the wolf. I'm having a conversation with this bird, right? You know, I'm reaching my hand out for that light. I'm looking out this dreary window. I could go on and on and on. And I think it's really compelling, literally compelling as a reader to have a deck like this in your arsenal. I love this deck so much. I find it incredibly easy to read with. It's a chatterbox. I have no problem interpreting messages when I use this deck. This deck and me, we get along really, really, really well. So I was absolutely delighted when Robin came out with the Oracle of Oneness, which is new to me. I have this out because I'm planning to do a walkthrough of this deck. So I think my copy is still in order. It is. So I'm not going to go into it a lot, but just know that I'm intensely excited about this. I think it is a unique take on it's kind of like, feels a little bit like a hybrid between like an Oracle deck, like a traditional divinatory style Oracle deck, and what am I trying to say? And like a affirmation deck. It feels like it's got kind of the vibe of both going on in here a little bit. So very excited about that. And of course, these will exist as a perfect pair in my collection, but they're very, very safe. Like, look at this design. It's so cohesive. It makes me happy just to look at it. Anyways, I love these and they are super, super safe. But now I need to figure out a matching bag for the Oracle. Cross that bridge when I get to it. Also in compelling is probably my top Oracle deck, like my just all-rounder Oracle deck of all time, and that is the Roots and Wings Oracle deck. This deck is I really should put these things like away. I never use these like little extra cards. I should like put these like away. But I keep them in there. It is what it is. So this has come out in different printings and versions since. You can get it in like a smaller version, like in I think a tin. I think I had that tinned version at one point, and then I think I let it go. I love this original version. The watercolor art, it's that rose petal finish, and it's a really kind of sticky, grippy kind, but I don't care. I love this deck. It pairs really well with so many things. The keywords are super expansive and like easy to understand, easy to work with. I love this deck. There's something about it and the art style that just makes it work so well with so many things. Man, I feel like I haven't touched it in a while, and suddenly this rose petal is feeling like extra rose petal-y. It's ultra, ultra matte, but the colors are really rich. But no, my favorite thing about this is I love, love, love these keywords. I love them so much. I think they work really, really well. And the deck is just an absolute treasure to work with. It's really, really easy. It's really intuitive. It's fluid. And yeah, maybe because I love watercolor, but this just ends up pairing well with so many of the other decks I have in my collection. It's just such a great all-rounder. If I need a good, like, just go-to Oracle deck, this is one of my favorites to pair with other things. And I find that having a couple of decks like this one that can just be versatile is so handy. But yeah, this is one of my favorites, and I called it compelling because I just don't think it can really neatly box into any other category, and it is one of my favorites. There's something about it that I think is just extra special. So love that. Roots and Wings. This is by Cat Riles, and as far as I know, you can still get this. And that leads me to my last little thing, which is kind of a deck family. And I talked about these. These are all in very special pouches because they literally work as a team. So this is my past life reading team of decks, and it began with this. So this is my soul cards. I had Peggy make me this really special wrap for this deck, something that has like an extra long like flap for it. Oh my gosh, I have had this deck for like, gosh, it's got to be almost 30 years now. Math, I don't know, math is hard. You can tell my copy is like, the edges are really distressed. It's like been around. Now nowadays, if you get the Soul Cards 1 and you get the Soul Cards 2, one of them has a blue back, and I believe Soul Cards 2 has like a maroon back. So I think it's Soul Cards 1 has blue, and then Soul Cards 2 has maroon. Now my copy Soul Cards 1 is this blue color, and Soul Cards 2 is this blue color, but they're both blue, which is different shades, as you can see. But my deck is combined. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the Soul Cards, they did not come with any kind of a guidebook. It is paintings that were done through a type of art called touch art, where paint is put on like glass, and then paper's laid over top of that, and then you use your hand to kind of pull the paint up to the picture. At least I believe that's what I remember from learning about it a long time ago. But this is an intensely intuitive deck. It's a storytelling deck. I don't use it for anything but past life or really deep soul type readings. It is the kind of thing that just is for that specific kind of job. And so this forms the sort of foundation for any time I do past life readings for others, whether that be clients or friends or family. This is the foundation of that work. And me and this deck are intensely bonded. We've done a lot of work together. We've had some trippy experiences, but I absolutely love this. It's, again, very special in my collection. And then when I was trying to conceptualize and come up with a way to do past life work or past life readings for clients, I needed to sort of create a system out of it, because when I used to do readings with this, when I do soul cards readings for people I know, it's very organic, and I just pull cards and pull cards and pull cards and pull cards until it feels done. But I couldn't do that in a professional setting because it asked more of me than I could give in that sort of a space. And I needed a way to sort of create some structure around it, or enough so that I could offer it to clients. And so I ended up ultimately over time developing a way to do that by using this still as the foundation, as the storytelling portion of the reading. And I still end up pulling quite a few cards, usually 5 or 6 from this deck. But I also pull, before I do that, I usually pull 3 cards from this deck, which is by the same artist. This is called The Portals of Presence, and it's kind of intense to look at. Same thing, there's no meanings, and they're all faces. And these are huge cards. Like, this is my hand. I don't know why. Here's my phone. Like, you can tell these are huge. They're like 4 by 6. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think these are 4 by 6. So they're enormous. They're like full-on postcard size, if not slightly bigger than that. Maybe they're even 5 by 7. I don't remember. They're big. They're real big. But these are really great because of the faces, they feel like elders or ancestors in a way, but they work really well. So these, I'll usually pull 3 of these in a row, and then I'll pull 5 soul cards, and then I'll wrap up with 3 oracle cards. I'll get to those in a second. But these are intense. These are intense. But they kind of create the main plot points for the life that I end up dipping into when I do a past life reading. And then the soul cards give the story of that life. And then the oracle card is what bridges that past life to the present. So that's effectively how my past life client readings are structured. So Portals of Presence, which is this deck, is where we begin. We sort of get the like main big kind of overview stuff. Then we get the actual story, like what happens with the soul cards. And then this is the Hero's Journey Dream Oracle. And it's also in a wrap because once I started using it for this, it stopped being usable for anything else for me. But this is actually a really beautiful deck with artwork by Rasuli. The guidebook is written by Kelly Sullivan Walden, and I don't know how much of that Kelly Sullivan Waldo or Walden. I don't know how much of the planning work she did versus the artwork by Rasuli or whatever, but this is such a gorgeous deck. I had it in glossy, and then when it came out in this matte cardstock, this matte laminated cardstock by Blue Angel, I got this one. But this does the most perfect job of bridging the past life to the present, and it's because it is based on the hero's journey. So oh gosh darn it, I'm going to blank on his name now. The guy, Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell wrote The Hero's Journey. And The Hero's Journey is like this archetypal journey you can like lay over most major stories. Well, it obviously works really well as well for a life, right? If you think about an archetype of a story, an archetype, that same thing, the archetypes of a life follow a similar trajectory. And so what I would do is pull at the end of so I'd have my 3 Portals of Presence, I'd have my 5 or so soul cards, and then 3 of these, and they would kind of link, they would create that bridge. Okay, what is it about this past life that is relevant? What is the lesson for your present, for your current life, for where you're at right now? Like, what can you bring forward? What wisdom can you connect into the present? And this deck helps me to do that when I'm reading for others. So it's become the sort of past life to current life bridge. And I used this deck specifically enough in that particular way that it became sort of perma-bonded to these other 2 decks. So these operate as a group, as a family, and that's just how it is. Oh my goodness. I feel like that was a lot. So only 2 decks from this category on the chopping block, which is not a surprise. We have the Luminous Void Tarot and the Journey Tarot on the chopping block. Everything else is pretty safe. Yeah, I don't think anything else was really at risk. So that is it for my compelling decks. Thank you so much for hanging out. As always, extra big thank you goes out to my Unicorn Fam channel members. Thank you so much. If you are interested in Unicorn Fam channel membership, you can click the join button down below to learn more about that. Don't forget to check out the Unicorn's Journey Oracle Kickstarter page and click that button to be notified when I go, like when the Kickstarter goes live, if you are interested in that. And stay tuned because again, we will have a live launch party here when that happens. But in the meantime, thank you so much. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Click the subscribe button if you want to see my videos in your subscription feed, or leave a comment if there's something you want to share. And until next time, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye.